Okay, just so our editors know who you are, can you tell us your full name and where you're born?
Um, my name is David Glynn Price, and I was born 10 minutes from here, Culver City. Immigrant parents, Wales, England, and just thrilled to death to be an American.
Did you know your grandparents?
I met them when I went to Wales years later, when I was like 30 or something.
What was the town in Wales that you're from?
Oh gosh, let me think. Port Talbot, coal mines, ships. My dad was a sailor when he was 15. Immigrated here. Great guy.
Was he in a merchant type scene?
Yeah, he was right around World War One, before World War One.
And how did your parents meet?
They met in New York. My dad was worked for the New York Harbor Department as a sailor. My mom came from England, and then they both migrated to California, thank God. And then I was produced.
How many did you have other siblings?
Yes, I have a brother who is in Kansas City and a sister who lives in Sun Valley.
Now, was your father in the service at all?
No, he was worked for Helms Bakeries for decades as sales manager, and a couple of decades as a sailor, also in Australia and New Zealand.
So part of being a sailor is you like to travel. He liked to travel.
Yeah, he was a quite adventuresome guy.
Bigger than life.
Um, well, looking back, I'd say yeah. Not that I'm sure I understood it at the time.
Now, when you were young, what values did your parents instill into you that you think have been important to you?
Well, looking back, I think of Ecclesiastes 9:10, which is whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your might. You know, I feel not bold about it, but nobody in the history of my family ever was an officer, never went to college. You know, this is for thousands of years. And all of a sudden, you know, a little guy like me, California, all these opportunities, but not, so as not to waste them. I think you really, whatever you got, give it.
Now, when you were a child, who were your childhood heroes?
Well, when I was 7, I lived not far from here, from the Douglas plant, Santa Monica Airport, and the World War II fighter pilots were my heroes, Spitfires. And we'd have over at our house a lot of the British Navy during World War II for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And so, you know, it kind of gets. Then I'd also see the airplanes, P-38s, P-51s, B-17s, many of them DC-3s made over here at Santa Monica, where I could go and watch them make the airplanes. They let us in the factory. So I didn't realize it, but that's what was happening. It was getting in my heart. So those heroes got in here, and years later, but I'll tell you later when you ask me about how did I get to the Navy.
Now, when you were seeing the glory, some of the greatest planes of all time in those days of World War II, what was it like around here? Was it a real military town?
Well, there were a lot of airplanes, as you can imagine, flying around our neighborhood because I was half a block away from the Douglas plant, Santa Monica Airport. And so when I was 7, I could tell you if that was a P-38 or a Mustang or B-17. And most of the people who lived here worked there. So you see all these houses, they were created because of building these airplanes. But military, there was not much of that. These were test pilots.
Do you remember the first time you met a test pilot?
The first time I met a pilot that I remember was when I was in college. I went to an air show, Air Force air show, out at Victorville, and they had F-86s. They were breaking the sound barrier and wow. So then we went to the house of a fighter pilot who fought in World War II, and he was telling stories while we were having drinks. And I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know if I'm capable of going into that, but it sure sounded romantic.
Now, when you were in high school, what was your dreams and aspirations of what you wanted to do with your life?
I think in those days, at least me, you didn't think about that. You were just thinking about what am I supposed to do today? Now, I think I'm going to be a lawyer. No, I better come to school tomorrow and do the homework. And luckily, got an SC as undergraduate. And my first semester, I got all D's because I really didn't understand how to be in college. And then I started working, back to Ecclesiastes 9:10, and went in the NROTC because they had a draft then for Korea. And so I ended up being an ensign. Went on a cruise prior to that, and I was in a cruiser. And there were one or two guys, friends of mine from California, on the ship. And we were attacked by a Marine squadron flying F-8 Bearcats, a model of which is up there, and 80 Sky Raider, a model of which is up. And this was a mock attack. We had a 20-ship formation. I'm on a 5-inch gun firing blanks. They whooped us. It was terrible. No contests. So there's shells all over the deck, and 2 or 3 guys, California, we look at each other and we go, I think we done broke the code. So off we went to Pensacola, which was, what a blessing.
Now, why did you choose the Navy versus one of the other services?
I think because my dad, it just seemed natural to me.
Was he proud of you going to the service?
I think he was, but he was just a great dad. I don't remember us ever having an argument, for example. And yeah, he was proud, but he didn't jump up and down and say, well, aren't you terrific?
The culture was different in his life, in their generation.
That's right. Exactly right. But I was lucky.
Now, do you remember the first time that you soloed in an airplane?
Oh yeah, I sure do. That yellow one up there, the model. And I had a flight instructor, his name was Aldo Dalabetta, and he flew torpedo bombers in World War II. And one day he says to me, he said, Price, he said, I don't know if you know what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep it up. And then when I did solo, you do a check ride with another instructor, and he says, okay, you're ready to go. So he climbs out of the airplane, closes the canopy, so I'm getting ready to taxi away. He goes, Price, you might want to raise your flaps, huh? So you can see I wasn't perfect.
Did you sort of seem like you had an instinct, though, or did you like it behind that in there?
Yeah, somehow I did, because if you fail a test, whether written or in flying, and there were plenty of them, you get a down, it's called. And I never got a down. And then when I was a flight instructor 2 years later, Don Rumsfeld was my wingman, by the way, and only one student in 2 years got a down of mine. And guess who gave him the down? Don Rumsfeld.
What was the culture like among pilots when you were in there? Was there anything, just a neat bunch of guys and a lot of characters? Or?
It was a blessing. In that era, just all honorable and striving, middle class, all white. And it was a good fraternity. And at Pensacola, there was a bar there called Trader John's, where everybody would show up and play pool, and sometimes he'd have your pictures on the wall and this and that. It was, looking back, it was such a blessing. But like I said before, every day I'm just trying to do the best I can, so I'm not thinking about blessings